Good evening, everyone. So a couple of stories, federal stories, and then provincial stories, and then one that's not my usual fare, but we'll give it a go anyway. So first, China. China rebukes Canada and other diplomats for letter on Muslim rights. Canada reportedly spearheaded letter initiative expressing concern about re-education camps. They're a name I can't pronounce, and I'm not even going to try. So China said Thursday that 15 foreign ambassadors, including the envoy from Canada, exceeded their diplomatic roles by issuing a letter expressing concern about the incarceration of hundreds of thousands of members of the country's Muslim minorities in re-education camps. WHO has said the letter violated the terms of the Vienna Convention governing diplomatic relations and that the ambassadors should not have, quote, interfere in the internal affairs of other countries. Quote, as ambassadors, they're supposed to play positive roles in promoting mutual understanding, mutual trust, and cooperation, rather than making unreasonable requests to the countries where they're based, WHO has said. Asked about the letter, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said he, quote, highlighted the concerns and questions that we have surrounding the issue in his bilateral meeting with Chinese Premier Li, and I'm not going to attempt her last name, on the sidelines of the annual summit of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in Singapore. Canada will continue to look for ways to advance and promote human rights in partnership with our like-minded allies everywhere around the world, Trudeau said at a news conference Thursday. The letter to the Chinese government has not been made public, but Reuters said it was signed by 15 Western ambassadors, including the Canadian, British, French, Swiss, European Union, German, and Australian envoys. So I wanted to point out that here's a list of Muslim majority countries. Here it is. And, above 50%, that's a majority, and it's got their main sect, so it's Sunni or Shia or Shiite, and this is talking about whether it's an Islamic state or if it's a state religion officially or whatever. So here is the list. Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nigeria, Egypt, Turkey, Iran, Sudan, Algeria, Afghanistan, Morocco, Iraq, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia. These are all countries with majority Muslim, and none of those names are on this list. Why are Western countries putting pressure on China about re-educating Muslim people within their country? Is that not allowed under international law? I'm really questioning why all these Western leaders are putting pressure on China for this. So, and I understand that Canada has religious freedom laws, but does Canada or do the West have a right to export our laws or expect other countries to follow our laws, especially about religion? China is a communist country. They're allowed to make their own rules, right? They're allowed to do what they want. So in what way does telling them to stop re-educating their citizens on something like religion help Canada at all? Why is signing this letter or spearheading this letter important? I'm really questioning the wisdom here. Why is all of the West and none of the Muslim or Islamic world standing up for this? It's very strange. So the other side of this China story today was Trudeau intends to work towards free trade deal with China despite the clause in the USMCA. This is the Globe and Mail reporting. So Canada and China will work together towards an eventual free trade deal, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said on Thursday. This is despite the country being signatory to the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement, the USMCA, which specifies that if one of its partners enters a free trade deal with a, quote, non-market country such as China, the other can quit in 6 months and form their own bilateral trade pact. This clause doesn't prevent us from doing what we're already doing, which is indeed continuing to negotiate with China on an eventual free trade deal, Trudeau said in a town hall with students at the National University of Singapore. Yes, we talked about deepening trade ties, increasing flow of goods and services between Canada and China for the benefit of citizens and businesses on both sides, Trudeau said. But I also talked about human rights. The situation of the re-education camps was also talked about, and things that are difficult to talk about, he added, without giving details. I paraphrased there just for anybody who's reading along with me. I can't say the Uyghurs or the Jaegers or whatever, so I paraphrased, so apologies. So I'll leave that there. You can see the link. Here's, and to comment on this story, I think this is a big thumbing our nose at Donald Trump. We couldn't get to giving up enough of our milk market to get to free trade with Trump. And yet, Trudeau's trying to tout this negotiation that he knows he has to get cleared by Trump. So, I mean, what a weird... I don't understand the chess. It's like watching a game of chess and not understanding this piece being sacrificed. This piece doesn't make sense. Like, you don't sacrifice your rook in this situation or your queen in this situation. Whatever. It doesn't make sense. Like, the United States is our biggest trade partner. Already set up. We have a trade deal in place, and you're doing everything you possibly can to tick off their leader for no good reason at all. No measurable impact. No measurable positive impact for Canada to treat Mr. Trump the way you're treating him, Justin. And still you persist and float this big trade deal for Canada, yet you couldn't meet Trump halfway, couldn't do anything with the dairy market, and you nearly blew up Canadian economy, and you're still selling out the steel and aluminum because you refuse to back down on it. But you won't take a picture with Trump, right? Just looks clueless, doesn't he? So frustrating. Okay, so on to Alberta. This was an interesting exchange, and I saw this in a tweet stream. And so there's video. So United Alberta is tweeting out, interesting exchange with a few Alberta reporters yesterday. Apparently, revisionist history is that NDP Deputy Premier never referred to Albertans as, quote, sewer rats. And we will read this exchange. So Kenny, he's the leader of the United Conservatives in Alberta, I believe. If I'm incorrect, please do correct me in the comments. Kenny says, as I said, Mr. Carpe has retracted and apologized for those remarks. He did not speak for the party. I condemn those remarks. I think we should have a common standard here. When Deputy Premier refers to the majority of Albertans, Reporter 1 says she was talking about rebel media. She wasn't talking about the majority. She wasn't talking about the majority Conservatives. Reporter 2, that's correct. Reporter 1, I heard the remarks. Reporter 2, yeah. Reporter 1, yeah. Kenny, really? Reporter 2, yes. Reporter 1, yeah. Kenny, that's interesting because I actually read the Hansard transcript several times, and the words, quote, rebel media don't appear in her remarks. Reporter 1, she was referring to rebel media. It was in the context of the remarks. Kenny, then why doesn't she actually say that? Reporter 1, she said it. Kenny, you're going to stand by that. Okay, you're mistaken, and in any event, if what she said was defensible, why did she retract and apologize for it? And here is the video, because that's half the fun.
The members opposite just want to keep jacking those things up. We're focused on hard hats. They're spending a lot of time with sewer rats, Mr. Speaker.
And if you want to see further context, the link to the transcript from Rebel is here, if you want to see it. Link is in the description. This is James Lindsay. And if you don't know who James Lindsay is, James Lindsay did an interview with Joe Rogan and another person. I actually did a video referencing it, and I can't remember his name. His name is difficult to say, but it's a recent Joe Rogan interview, and it's very worth the watch. I'm going to try and remember to put a link to that into the description. But James Lindsay wrote fake papers that took positions of like social justice warriors and tried to get them published as academic papers. And he got a bunch of them published. Him and his team got a bunch published. And now they became public about it to expose how farcical the system is. And now because they're public with it, they're getting a response. And I thought that this would be interesting for my audience, but I couldn't put it into a context. And then the second part of this that I'm going to read puts it in a political context that I thought was better. So this is something that I've gone through. I'm not a minority, but I've still gone through this. And I'm going to read it out. I think it's interesting, and then I'm going to jump ahead to the relevant part. So apologies if you don't find this interesting. I did. So hi, James. Thanks for the work that you've done and your colleagues have been doing. As a black immigrant Muslim woman who graduated from a university that supports grievance studies, I don't have words to describe how much I appreciate your work and the light it shines on these disciplines. I actually shared your story on my Facebook page full of all my liberal friends, and not a single person commented on it. Not one. I can tell you countless stories around my experiences living as a grievance studies skeptic while being a minority at a university, but I'll stick with one. One that I used to find particularly irritating was how much my white liberal friends always paid extra attention to my ideas whenever we talk about social justice issues. Initially, I thought it was because my ideas were great. Clearly, I have a big ego. But I soon realized it was more because they thought as a minority, I somehow needed to be listened to, that my experiences were somehow more valid. To make sure I wasn't paranoid about this, I did a little experiment where I offered an anti-social justice idea in an argument that I knew a group of people I was conversing with did not agree. Instead of pushing back on my ideas, one individual actually ended up apologizing to me, saying she doesn't want to make me feel unsafe. I found this to be intellectually disrespectful. Instead of engaging with my ideas, all she saw was my identity. Sadly, I'm a bit of a coward, I guess, to come out with my ideas, so I limit my engagement with people. My family makes fun of me as a closeted Republican, which I'm not, but I definitely don't have a home in the current political climate. Thanks again for your work, and keep up the good fight. Know that you have more people behind you than you realize. So I saw that interview with James Lindsay and a bunch of, and his other team member, and I apologize for him that I don't know his name. I'm going to go find his name. It's Peter Boghosian, and it's very worthwhile. I'm not going to show you the interview, but the link will be in the description.
Affirmative action is an equity.
I got the link there. So that was James Lindsay, I believe. So here's how it ties in. What I want to add is, as to why what you guys are doing is so important, is that this stuff is going global. Recently, a new administration took power in Ethiopia, which is where I'm originally from. While it was a great change, individuals that have taken key positions of power ended up being Western-educated men and women who were well-versed in grievance studies. Ideas of male privilege, mansplaining, and all that feminist lingo is now becoming mainstream, mostly among elites. And this is a nation where 55% of the population doesn't have clean drinking water. We're celebrating a PM office with gender parity, 50-50 male-female cabinet members, while millions of women still live on less than $1 a day. Similar things are happening in other parts of Africa. It seems it has to do with funding. The UN, for example, is funneling millions of dollars to, quote, empower women in Africa, which should be great news, but a significant amount of it is going towards achieving gender equality. I'm not even sure what that means or how you go about measuring that. None of it is genuine. Everyone, including the government, is trying to please their donors, and I feel that it will leave these weak nations in worse position than they already are. So that's why I wanted to show this to you guys. The money that we're sending, and I've done videos about this, sending money for gender studies in nations where we pay rent on buildings, lining people's pockets who own the buildings, right? It's not money laundering, but it's just handing money out to GMOs that don't really actually do anything. And this is not proof of that. This is an anecdotal look from an expat who's saying, the garbage that they're shoveling here is the same garbage that they're trying to shove down their throat back in my home country too. And that's crazy when there are actual real problems. 55% of the population doesn't have clean drinking water. And in Canada, there are actual real problems. And instead of dealing with actual real problems, they're making stuff up to celebrate gender parity, which doesn't matter because we should be competency-based. Our hierarchies are competency-based. Thank you, Jordan Peterson. And not whether you're male or female. Male or female shouldn't come into it. Can you do the job the best? Yes? Then do it. No? Then get out of the way for the person who can. It's unbelievable. And so all of these sick, distracting policies, these divisive policies, these policies that make people think they're victims, these policies that make people march and believe that marching is changing something or helping people or somehow proving that they are the victim. It's like the victim Olympics. Like, I'm more of a victim, so I deserve more of the government handout? I don't know. I don't get it. But these distractions are being orchestrated by the government in order to do something, in order to distract us enough so that we don't notice our country being taken away. I'm not sure. I don't know what the end goal is. I really don't. But it's happening in other places than just Canada. It really is. This is the last story I'm going to touch on today. I choose the stories that I cover. I do. Not you guys. Sorry. I get to choose them. Now, if you think that I've missed out on a story, you can go to my website. My website is canadapoly.com, and I have a contact me page there. You can contact me, and you can send me story ideas, or, hey, did you see this? That would be wonderful. But please don't be abusive in the comments about stories that you think I'm ignoring. I'm a dude. I'm just one guy. I have 2 kids. I have to make dinner every single night. And I have a full-time job as well. So I cover the stories that I want to cover, that I think are the most interesting for you guys, not the stories that you think that I should cover. If you want a story covered and you're that passionate about it, please start your own channel. I will promote it. But don't yell at me for not covering a story that you think I should cover. Go start your own channel and cover the story you want to cover. Have a good night, everybody, and check out thepeoplespartyofcanada.ca.